Welcome to For the Record, an unfiltered view on current trends and timeless advice for surviving in the aesthetics industry. Whether you're an injector, practice owner, sales rep, or marketer, it's time to set the record straight. Each week we cut through the chaos and showcase diverse perspectives and winning ideas from the best minds in the industry. I'm your host, Dr. Tiphany Hall, Chief Growth Officer at Aesthetic Record. Now, let's get started on this week's episode. Hey guys, welcome back to another in-studio episode of For the Record Season 6. And we have been on a journey this season to talk about all the things. And today we have a really full circle moment, and I'm thrilled to have an in-person guest with us, Mr. Shawn Thursby-Palmer, who is a nurse practitioner and a founder-owner of the 2-location med spa, Beyond the Needle, which is in Banning, California, and second location in
Studio City, California.
Studio City. So he is doing all the things. It has a very interesting background with a colorful past, but has emerged from the ashes like a phoenix to open up 2 med spas, to become a nurse practitioner, an educator, a trainer all across the country, to do some really cool things to help give back to the community of aesthetic injectors and to make a big difference. And he's also just a delightful human who has a lot of colorful stories to tell and is really making a name for himself as an entrepreneur, but also as a nurse injector. So we're thrilled to have him here with us today in the studio. So Shawn, welcome to our show.
Thank you so much for having me, Tiphany. I appreciate you having me here today.
Well, flew here from California to be in Dallas. That's always a really fun thing. We like people to be here in the flesh. It's just more fun.
I have to agree. That's why I decided to jump on a plane. It's just more personal. I'm an in-person type of
guy. Okay,
yeah.
Well, I have to know, first things first. This is one of my curiosities. Your last name, Thursby-Palmer. Why do you have 2? Tell me now.
Fun fact. So my husband's British,
okay,
and his last name is Thursby, and my last name is Palmer. So it's hyphenated, and everyone knows his last name now because he runs a TV show called Love Island, and it's...
Oh, don't say that here. They're gonna come bum rush all of our backgrounds on our Zoom. Don't advertise that here, Shawn. You're gonna get bum rush in the middle of the podcast.
It's weird because that's people say, "Oh my gosh, I recognize your last name," because his name pops up first, and it's like it's a rare name. So yeah, I took his last name. We couldn't decide on what last names to take, so
you took both.
We took both.
I love that because I was like, how do you put them together? Because I always want to know, like, if you put them together, what would they be? But I love it, and it also just sounds very sophisticated and very official. So anyway, I just had to know.
That.
Well, that's Love Island. I got to take a moment to get my blood pressure down from that.
But you just got home.
You have a very interesting background, and I want to go into all of that. But I want to first start with like today. What all are you doing today? Because I know that you've taken a big initiative around injection, education, but also doing it at a price point that's affordable, and the things that you've done on your own to not break the bank for our people, because you had the bank, I think, broken with a lot of investment in your education. So what are you doing today besides just being an amazing founder and owner? What else is going on in your world?
So I mainly am spending a lot of time studying myself and always bettering my craft. Education is like my heart and soul. So I do a lot of training. I would say I travel probably 4 to 8 times a month throughout the United States, and I train. I'm also doing hands-on training for another company right now. So I spend a lot of time researching, reading evidence-based research papers. That's where I get my information. I constantly tell everybody that I come across is we are very led by social media, which can be easily done. And I played a huge part in that role when I first became an injector, and I was with Stepanian for many years. And I did what I thought I was supposed to do off of social media. And it wasn't until I realized, wait, I've gone to school, I pulled my life together, not to follow someone else's shadow, but to be my own leader. And so I base everything upon research and evidence-based medicine. And we have all these fun letters behind our names because we are great critical thinkers. So that's personally what changed and drives my business today.
I love that because I think we forget. I was listening to a podcast this morning that, FNP is a big deal. MD, whatever the letters are, you've obviously gone to school, you're a master of your craft, you spent so much time doing it. And on the business side of it, like, we shouldn't be what you think about in the morning, right? Those of us who do business all day, that's what we think about. You think about being an artist and a clinician, and somewhere on social media, it all gets mixed together in this big vat of just goo. And I think we forget to kind of disassociate the fact that a clinician, a medical professional, is not the same as like a marketer, a social media influencer, a KO. They're just different things,
100%. And it is hard because you wear many hats as a business owner, but I always want to make first and foremost my priority, my patient's safety and their overall care, and taking care of them from the point they enter my office to the time they come back.
Yeah, and you were with Nune for a while at the Stepanian Clinic, which we love her. Shout out to her. But you decided to go on your own, I don't know, a year? Was it 2 years? A year ago? How long ago was it?
Opened my first place in 2022. I signed the lease in Banning. And then I opened my Studio City location in October of this year. And I was with Nune for several years. She taught me so much the first year. I mean, I didn't touch a patient for 10 months. I shadowed her for about 10 months. I spent, again, I tell everybody, don't do what I do. So I try to educate everybody. I spent $86,000 on education my first year. And I went to cadaver courses with no knowledge of facial anatomy, which, again, social media told me to do that. So that's what I did. I went there, and you'll be darned. I sure posted that on my social media that I was there. I injected red and blue dye. I did not know anything I did. So I tell everybody, listen, if you're going to invest in a course, especially a cadaver course, do yourself a favor and know your facial mapping, know your facial arteries, know your facial muscles, know that one muscle never moves by itself. It takes two, at least in the face. Once you get that down, then take that course, because then you'll have an understanding of it. Also, so many of us in this industry, we jump in to take, let's say, a sculpture course, and we don't have a connection with that resource to have sculpture in our office. We take the training, we don't have models set up, we don't utilize that $5,000 training in 4 weeks. Guess what? You're never going to use it. So have a connection with the product, with the rep, have your model set up, and have it ready to go right when you come home from that training, because otherwise you're not going to use it.
Well, I spent many years in Gain, and it's the same thing even for the free training. You would go into practice, which it costs the manufacturer, obviously. You'd have, like, let's say you came in, you're a great injector, great trainer. The people feel so excited that day, they're enthused. You leave, and then nothing happens. And it's like you took a day out of your clinic to do this. We spent money on it. You took your time out of the clinic. How come no one thought this was a good idea to go home and actually, like, do the things? And they just wouldn't do it. And, like, as a sales rep coming in, I'm like, okay, how's it going? Well, we thought about doing it. We want more practice. Like, well, then go practice. Like,
absolutely.
You have friends, family. You're going to be safe, hopefully, because you have general injection knowledge. But go try, product A versus product B. But they just wouldn't do it, Shawn. They just weren't motivated enough to go do the things. And I never understood that. To spend money and time, if I'm not going to go do it seriously, I won't waste the time to do it. Like, until you're ready, don't do it. I just don't feel it. I feel like that's such a disservice to your patients, because you advertise you did it. You put it on social media. Yep. They come in thinking that you've done it, and you really didn't do it. And so then I think it's also almost like it's almost unethical in a sense to say that I did all these amazing things, but then I, quote unquote, forgot to practice for 6 weeks, but now you're here, I'm going to be awesome at it. I just think it's not fair. So
it's 100%. It's a waste of your time, your patient's time, and most of all, that resource and that financial loss that you've now lost out on. That's why I tell everybody I come across, learn from my mistakes. I'm an open book. My offices both have an open door policy. I don't charge for people to come in and shadow. I think there's so many people jumping into this world so naively. And yes, I'm not the highest price point on the market. I realize that. I'm not all about the money. I've never made decisions based upon money. When I first opened my doors, or when I was actually with Nune and I had my own little place going, I was part of the filler issue that we're going through now, because you chose price point over aesthetic outcome. I was part of that. I have to say, did Cindy Lulu need more lips? Absolutely not. She did not need any more lips.
But Shawn gave them to her anyway.
I gave them to her because guess what? That was a patient on my books, and I needed that $700. Am I part of that culture now? Absolutely not. So I think that's where our industry is still going wrong, is we're having, I think they said 37.4% of people now in nursing school in California are solely going to school to be an aesthetic provider. And they're jumping out of graduation, taking their boards, and then they're putting on, there was a girl just recently that, she graduated and took a course, and within a month she was saying she was a trainer. So there's no control over that stuff. So it's a bit tricky.
But what I think is interesting? So let's say we were in cardiology, just as an example. If you had 37% of cardiologists or people in school for cardiology doing a thing that they never taught, you would see a riot in the street. The fact that we have almost 40% of people in nursing school today who are declaring, I want to be a nurse injector, yet we refuse to teach it, talk about it, demonstrate it, have any hands-on in nursing school. Is that not a shocking fact for you to think about? Like, it just makes me crazy to think we're saying go do this thing, but then the golden handcuffs are so thick you can't ever get any better. It makes me crazy. It makes no sense. I think we've got to do, if you're out there listening and you're part of a nursing school, do better. But
absolutely do better. And I know for a fact there's 3 schools in California that are currently looking at bringing on aesthetic a training program within the BSN program, which is powerful because no one else is doing that. And then at least it gives them some hands-on experience. As an RN, you graduate, you have clinical experience in everything from OB to peds to med surg, advanced med surg, all that stuff. So why not include it? If there's that large amount of people that are wanting this, let's give it to them and let's give them some education so they come out and they're not harming our industry overall.
Well, and the other part of that too is I've had a few that I've worked with that came out, they're going to do this, they're going to be a nurse injector, and they end up hating it. And they spend all their nursing school really focused with this one idea and this one focus, this one thought. And then now they're in 3 or 4 years and like, I hate this. I don't want to do this. And then what happens? Because you didn't take advantage of all the things you could have done during nursing school when it was safe and free to do it because you focused on nurse injecting. Well, had you had any exposure at all before graduation day, you might have known then that it wasn't for you.
That is such a good point. I never even thought about that.
Just, to me, it's like this anomaly that we have because we're not, as they say, we're not real medicine, which I think it's all medicine, right?
We're all medicine.
If you're touching a patient in any way, it's medicine. But I do think it's an issue. But you mentioned one thing there about shadowing that is my hot button. To pay $6,000 to go watch somebody walk around, I think is absolute lunacy.
And listen, have I gotten some negative feedback from certain people? Absolutely. But that's okay. This is my time and what I choose to do in my time and in my office. That's up to me. If I'm not making that money and if I'm not needing that $10,000 that day to help people, I'm okay with that. I'm very, very blessed to have a second chance at life. So I don't need, money doesn't make me happy.
But I just can't imagine if you went, again, like to think about cardiology or neurology, you went to someone's practice to watch them and they said, okay, well, you're new, so it's $6,000 to watch me walk around all day and look at hearts. You would think that they had lost their ever-loving freaking mind. Like, that's just not the way it operates. So it's like you either are medicine or you aren't medicine. You either have to be the same way or you aren't the same way. And I get that there's business parts of it, and I know that part is really, important. But a business shadow is different than like an actual clinical shadow. And I think people are charging these crazy rates. I mean, I bill by the hour. I do consulting work all the time, and I would never say at $6,000 come watch me walk around.
Yeah.
I've got a pretty large business here that makes a lot of money, and I just don't think I'm that important. I guess people are that important. I know there's an ROI to it, but for the good of the industry, I think we are at a place where we've made it prohibitive to become a great injector because we've made it so expensive to train and learn. If you want to go to the high level, you've got to really shell out a lot of money. And at that point, you're rich enough to afford it. You probably already know what you're doing anyway. Like if you have enough money to afford it, you already know what you're doing. So it's kind of a counterintuitive thing that we're in right now. But that's my soapbox.
And like I said, honestly, it was $86,000. I was working at Children's Hospital LA, did pediatric oncology there for about almost 8 years. Every dime I made, I put back into trainings. And I tell everybody whenever I'm in front of anybody is learn from my mistakes, because I probably valued maybe 25 to 30% at max of what I spent. I definitely did not get a return on my investment for that stuff.
So what are your recommendations if I'm going to pick the things that I want to go do that we're going to have really pack a punch? What should I be going to pay money for?
I think that you should. There's great, like codefonanatomy.com is where I tell every single injector to start. Put yourself in a quiet room, listen visually and audio to the facial anatomy, learn the origin, the insertion of the muscle, know when you get mad why the glabellar complex is causing those 11s, that the corrugator is pulling medial, causing those lateral lines. Learn all of that stuff so that when you do inject at the origin of the muscle, it makes sense to you and what you're doing. And if a patient has had an upper or lower facelift, that patient's going to get completely treated differently. The muscles aren't going to move the same. You need to know your anatomy first. So that's what I tell everybody to start. And you can get the first course for under $100. I'm very much trying to find valuable resources for, an effective, not breaking the bank. So, and there's ways to do it. There's great podcasts out that are very inexpensive. There's many, many, many tutorials online that are not crazy expensive. And sadly, that's also what's bit us in our butt with the DIYers. Mm-hmm. And that's how we are getting here. And nobody really controls, like the Board of Registered Nursing. No, like cardiologists would not go online and say, here's how you do a heart surgery. No, we don't do that. But we see everybody that's brand new even, that has a platform. Everybody has a platform on TikTok and social media and stuff like that, and they're pointing out areas of origin to inject toxin, and they're not even correct.
That's why I think Patreon is both a help and a hurt, because you have access now to these amazing injectors on Patreon who are training. They're really high level, but anyone can join. There is no license validation. Even like for CMEs, even coming like aesthetic next, we were just discussing that before we came on. I don't validate your license. I expect that you're going to come in. You can't get to CMEs and use them if you don't have a license, but we don't like gatekeep the attendance because we have office managers, we have MAs, we have people who do social media. But at some point, when it's a true medical setting, you need to make sure that they're a licensed provider who could use what they're learning, because I agree with you, the DIY thing, it went away for a while, now it's back, and it's back with the ugly vengeance. And I've seen the same person online injecting herself, because it's been everywhere like nonstop. But I think also injectors injecting themselves it's criminal. Don't do that. That is the worst. Like, if you don't trust your colleagues to inject you, then I just think that that's such a problem.
You have the wrong team members.
Yeah, and you doing it yourself. I mean, I'm a very tactile person. Like, things feel different with different hands, and it's just not the same. It's like when you try to braid your hair, doing it yourself versus somebody else. It's just a whole different. I can do mine own beautifully. I can't do anyone else's. That's like a very small example, but it's the same kind of thing. That your dexterity just depends on where you're looking and mirrors. I don't know. Get a friend. Call a friend.
I 100% agree. And back to your previous question just a little bit, it's find a good mentor. Find somebody. There are people, and I get this all the time, that people want $5,000 just to shadow them, or they, to mentor them and stuff. There are people that are out there that's what they love to do. That's what feeds our soul and our energy. So find that person and surround yourself with good people and good providers that actually truly genuinely care about you and your safety.
And I think that is such I've got a few people that I know who are mentors, and it doesn't feed their soul. And so they get people to sign up with them. They give them a little bit of advice. Maybe they do a shadow day, and then it's like, okay, well, I'll talk to you once a month, bless and release. And a mentor, you kind of need them, not on demand, but in some cases you kind of do. And like when there's a thing that happens, you want advice, you want to talk to somebody. If it doesn't feed you and you don't want to do that, don't sell a mentorship program if you're not going to be a freaking mentor.
I agree 100%.
And I think that's such but people are so desperate, as you kind of were in the very beginning, to get education, to learn, to grow, that they'll spend the money, they'll kind of take advice on social media, they'll find the people, and then they'll come out of it saying, gosh, I wish that $10,000 was not well spent, or that $15,000 was not well spent. And then what do you do at that point when you have no recourse? You're kind of stuck with it.
You're stuck. And also, we all know if you have been injecting long enough, an adverse reaction is going to take place. It's not about when, it's going to happen. So when that moment takes place, I tell everybody, including myself, have your emergency pack ready. Be prepared to see what happens. I've had a patient stop breathing on me. Be prepared, and have somebody that you can dial quickly, and have somebody have some other support besides your team there. Have another colleague that you trust. Have an ocular specialist there in case it's blindness. Have somebody there. Have somebody in your area. I have an ultrasound device, so I tell everybody around me, I can't help you all the time. I may not be there, but the device is there, and I can make sure that we get you the proper resources. So aesthetics is a lot about partnering with the right people, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's enough patients, I think, for all of us. And part of the goal, too, is to get more patients, right? If we do good work, we get more. But I think the DIY, there's a whole underbelly right now that people are scared. I mean, I think we've gone back to where people are really scared of the overinflated lips and cheeks. Thank God that's kind of going away. But they thought about coming into our category, and they're like, you know what? I think I'll just walk. I'll wait a minute and see how it all fleshes out, because patients are getting bad results, or people just are not doing a great job, or it's just the chaos of injections, the chaos of our social media, and the hating on each other, and the adverse event chaos. It's just a very busy place right now, and I think we've got to kind of calm ourselves and almost self-regulate, because no one else is doing it, right? We don't have any kind of a board, any kind of an agency. In lieu of that, we've got to, I think, self-monitor, and that's not always a possibility.
It's difficult to do, and I think right now, last year there was 17.9. I think there was something like 21.7% of people in the United States currently receiving aesthetic procedures. That leaves 79% that are it's like hair. People, everyone does hair. They all have jobs. There's enough people to go around, and I tell everybody this also is, the better known your community and your city and your state are known to be safe and provide good aesthetic outcomes that are pleasing to you and the patient, the better. Like Texas, if everyone here does well and they follow safety protocols, people in Texas are going to feel safe. And that's going to put more people in more chairs and increase everyone's revenue.
Agree. Yeah, I think we owe it to our colleagues. We want them to owe it to us also, right? Like, I want to do good for you in hopes that you'll do good for me. And if we don't do good for each other, then we all kind of lose out. But I think the adverse event part is really big. But we also make a big deal about adverse events. That it's always going to happen. It's such a big deal, and it is. But if you look at social media, it happens every day to everyone all the time. And
also, I think if you are posting, posting scaring the people on your social media, guess what? You're causing fear, and they're probably not going to come into you because you made all these posts about all these adverse reactions. So you've hyped them up to have this nervousness before they even walk in your doors.
I often wonder, too, in a community where you have a person who's a bad actor, if anyone ever calls them. I mean, back in the day when I was a sales rep, we had a few people in our area that were bad actors. And like, has someone ever called them and said, "Hey, you're dangerous. You're using illegal product"? Like, no one ever had the balls to call them and tell them. I'm like, you're all talking about these people behind their back. You're mad about what they're doing. They have bad outcomes. But none of you cared enough about your patient population in your city to call and say, "Hey, Shawn, you're really effing things up here, bud. Let's get it together." No one, not one person, the balls to do it. Like, I'll go do it. Like, as a sales rep, I'll go say, "Hey, listen, I'd love to help you out, but people are saying some things about you that are crazy. I don't want to sell to you." Because they just didn't do it. Like, how could you not want everyone to be at least okay? Because a patient who goes to them and gets hurt will tell all the people that they know, "Don't get injected because this is going to happen to you."
Yep.
And then it hurts everyone else's books. Like, go tell them that they're doing a bad job. Go freaking walk in and say you're doing a bad job.
100%. There's 11 med spas. Sorry, I cut you off.
No.
There's 11 med spas in a 0.9 mile radius of me in Studio City. I have worked tremendously hard to communicate with all of them to make sure that we're all providing safe measures to our patients, that we work together. Like, there was just a case the other day where I didn't have a product. I was able to call somebody 4 doors down and she lent me that product. And then 2 days later, she needed Sculptra. And I said, "Here you go, here's 4 vials, no stress." And when you support each other and you grow your community, you're going to grow in a much stronger, powerful way, in my opinion.
I agree. Well, I think you've had an interesting past, which probably lends itself to why you are so caring and concerned about patients and patient safety and even the price point. So we're going to unpack that gift to all of us, because you told me your story at AmSpa, and I was like, you could have blown me away with a feather. I was shocked. And I know George Baxter for a long time, and he has kind of a similar story as yours. And like, to watch people sort of transcend and go beyond all that to become these amazing people who do these amazing things, I think it's just it's just an awesome story. So I'm going to kind of give you some space to kind of tell that about your background and how you ended up here.
I appreciate that. So I was born and raised in a very small city called Banning, where I opened my first location. And I was born and raised there. My father was a chief of police, and my mom was a mayor pro tem of the city. So I was always under tight wraps. I couldn't even speed down the street. Before I got home, there was a phone call saying what I had been, done wrong. And so they were very well known in the city. And I struggled to come out in the early 90s, and I knew West Hollywood was where all the gays went. And I had never did a drug in my life, never really drank alcohol, barely drank alcohol, never smoked weed, never did any of that stuff. And my parents really struggled with me coming out. My dad, as a police officer, really struggled the most, and then they used it against my mom for her campaigning. So I literally just decided very abruptly that I was going to move to West Hollywood, where everybody, where that's my community was. So I made the decision, got my own little apartment. I got a job at this place called Merrick's Tex-Mex, which was very celebrity-driven. All the guys had their shirts off. It was just like the hot spot to be. And it was always jam-packed. And I kind of fell into the wrong crowd. I mean, didn't even fall into the wrong crowd. It was just one night I went out with them to a circuit party. And before I knew it, I had tried every drug under the sun all in one night. Literally. And had to call off to work the next day, and I was up for I think 2 or 3 days that first time. But it happened very quickly that I became addicted to drugs very quickly. And sadly, meth is what got its tight grip on me. Once I tried that, it was pretty much done. So I became addicted to meth pretty quick, lost my job. And then I started becoming a drug dealer and was selling very large amounts of narcotics, which I'm not proud of, and was making an insane amount of money. And that's what actually triggered me to say, I can't do this anymore, because I saw all these amazing people moving to West Hollywood did exactly what I did, and all these beautiful men coming in, women too, and I was supplying the drugs now. So it ate me alive. And I would say that's where me being raised the way I was and being the kind person that I am, I realized I can't do this anymore. So I literally just walked away from it overnight, and then I had no source of income. So then I ended up living on the streets. So out of 10, I was on drugs for about 10 years. In the last 4, I was pretty much homeless. and as an IV drug user. So it was pretty challenging, but I'm very, 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 very blessed to come out disease-free and get a second chance at life. And I did it all on my own. I never went to rehab. I tried rehab. It was not for me. It was a very scary place for me. So I did it all on my own, which was probably the hardest thing I've ever had to do. And I literally built my life up. And it was a nurse in the ER who actually, when I'd overdosed once, who just talked to me for hours. And she's like, you seem like the sweetest person. And still to this day, I'm still friends with her over 20 years later. So I was like, I'm going to be a nurse. And everyone laughed because I barely graduated high school. So I pulled myself up, got a full-time job, and I took a few classes out of junior college, and I took a few more classes and a few more classes, and I did it all on my own. And I went through RN school, was top of my class, and then top 2 of my NP program.
Damn, what a story. But I think, people always say, well, if I can do it, anyone can. No, anyone can't. I mean, the fact that you got clean on your own, let's talk about that, the willpower of that. Like, I mean, I watch a lot of shows and a lot of things, and that's insane.
Awful. It was, I think what I remember, like full-on seizures, different things, and I just was in a room for I begged my parents to let me come back for a short time just to get clean, and I stayed in my childhood bedroom for about 3 months, and about a month of it, I didn't even come out of the room other than to use the bathroom for the most part.
Oh my gosh. But worked your way back up to classes. Isn't that crazy? You didn't feel like you were a great student in high school and then you were top of your class in both BSN and MSN. I think when you love something, you want to do good in it. Like if you love it, it turns you on. It puts your soul on fire. I think high school was so not like that, and people turn to other things because it's so horrible. Yeah. At least in this country. Like think about China. You fall in love with your career in China when you're like 4, so you're always working towards something. I feel like you always have a plan for your life and a plan to do the next thing and the next best thing. Here, I think we just tell kids, you're on your own, figure it out. And then, because I had a lot of friends who in the high school to college years became very drug addicted, had a lot of problems, a lot of things because they had no direction, they had nowhere to go, they had no idea what to do next. No one was there to tell them because they came from families who didn't have parents with any sort of professional education. And so I think no matter where you are, where you're from, it happens to people. Like
it happened overnight to me, honestly. And like I said, I'm not proud about certain parts of it, I was very fearful in this industry. Granted, I did pediatric oncology at Children's LA for my first start of my career. But for some reason, the aesthetic industry, I kept it quiet for a long time. And I think I remember talking to you at AmSpa, and you're like, just be you. Just don't hide behind it, whatever. And that actually stuck with me since then. And I don't hide behind it anymore. It's made me who I am. I'm very, very, very loyal to my patients, to my family. It's actually changed my family quite a bit. My dad was never the type to say, I love you or give you a hug. And now we don't hang up the phone without saying that.
Well, I think it also tells your patients who you are. I mean, I think your perspective is so different because you have many times on your website and even in our little bio for this, it's not about the money for you. The money is part of it. You have to survive. Obviously, you want to make money and be rewarded for your, for your intellect and your craft. But you're helping people. You're serving them as patients and as practitioners. It's about their goal, their journey. I mean, I think you get like 100 text messages a day or like tons of messages every day from providers and patients wanting to talk to you, get your opinion, get your advice. That's the thing that people just don't do in this industry. I mean, people want to say that they do, but they don't. They want to feel like they're good, caring individuals, but they maybe aren't so caring. I think it's who you are. Like your natural core is that kind of person. So I think it just lends itself to how you practice, how you interact with people. I can feel it. You know what I mean? Like I know it's who you are. I think it's hard to put my finger on it, but I just think there's a part of it where it's kind of your brand for me. Like I think about you in that way of like holy triumph. The story of the Phoenix. Like that's a big, big deal. And to do it all on your own, I think it's just like shocking.
I really appreciate that. And you're right, my patients, I do talk about it a little bit more. And as I said, I hid behind it for a while because felt like I was going to be judged. The truth is they all know me by now. And coming back to opening the place in Banning, they all know my past. They all know my history. And it's just, I feel very lucky and fortunate to be here. And I receive probably an average of 100 to 130 text messages every single day. I think I have 97 from just this morning on my flight. And I genuinely give my cell phone number out to every single person that I am fortunate to train in front of. And I say, listen, if you have something, call me. Reach out to me. I'm an open book. And I try really, really, really hard to respond within 12 to 24 hours.
I get a lot of messages too. And I'm like, well, I'll get back to some. I don't know how you do it. It's out of control. Mine are usually DMs that are people screaming at me about aesthetic record, but mine aren't
That's different.
Mine aren't so positive as yours, Shawn. But I think you're investing in people coming up the ranks. I think that's, even from the podcast, people can tell that you really care about who's coming in the next generation of injectors. So looking at sort of your history and your background, I think there is a part of it where if you really want this, like to tell people, if you really want this, this can be yours. You got to work your ass off for it. You got to work real freaking hard, but you can do this. But it's going to take. It's not from like divine manifestation. Like you got to get in there and get your hands dirty, because I think you've done that obviously in a very big way. But how do you help people who are thinking about going into aesthetics to even get their feet wet, and even to think through like, what is this going to actually mean to like own my own practice and have to deal with crazy patients who are not very nice to me? And it's a mixed bag. So how do you help them?
It is, and that's why I want to be part of that helping hand instead of somebody that's pushing them away or charging them an insane amount of money. I'm very much an open book with everybody, and just my training the other day, there was 4 that were about to open their new med spa and stuff. I said, please call me. Let me share my attorneys with you. Let me share. I wasted hundreds of thousands of dollars doing things the wrong way. So please, by all means, let me help you so you don't make the same mistake, because we're in this era where they're going to do it regardless. So that's why I'm like, let me try to step in and do my part, what I feel like is my part, to offer an affordable training. I'm developing a certain program, but I want to help people where it doesn't break the bank. So that way we are performing safe procedures and good aesthetic outcomes that are done safely. And that person's not $20,000 in debt just to get there.
Well, it's funny because I used to tell people back in my golden days, they would say, why would I be a trainer? Like, it doesn't help me. It doesn't behoove me to be a trainer. I'm like, but like, some part of you should want to do good for your fellow injectors, like those who are coming up the ranks. And by the way, you sit here and you armchair quarterback about everybody else is doing a bad job. Well, go be part of the solution.
Yes.
Like, go be part of the solution. Go be part of the people who are trying to make a positive difference. And look at all the guys like the OGs, like Julie Bass Kaplan, Lloyd Robertson, Connie. These guys have been here for like 150 years, George. And they did it when there was not any pay for it. It was just like, you just go train people because it's the goodness of your heart and you want to be, doing good things. And look at their careers. They've lasted for 30 years. I mean,
Yep.
they're still around. There's still people on stage, on podiums, and they've been doing this for a long freaking time. There's a runway in that, too. I think as you train and develop others, people start to know you as that. They think about you as an educator. They put you on stages. They want you to be part of their brands. You get to be at a different table and have different conversations because you are now a thought leader in the industry. There's a big ROI to it, even if it's altruistic, which I'm sure for you in some ways it is. But there's still a part of it business-wise that's very lucrative in the long run, to be the person that they come to and say, you're my sage knowledge, you're my advisor, help me, because you're with them for the rest of their career as a nurse. And they'll look at you forever and say, gosh, if I hadn't had Shawn intervene, what would I have done? I think there's power in that, a lot of power in that.
And that's when people ask me, like, I did just hire a full marketing team, social media and all that stuff. I have zero intention on being some celebrity on those things. That's never what it's been about for me. But what it has been about is being a safe provider and having my businesses known as being a safe, comfortable place where when you walk in, you feel like family. Everybody gets a hug, that they're supported. And that's how me and my husband came up with the name Beyond the Needle, because not every procedure involves a needle, but beyond that procedure, I'm taking care of you until I see you next, or at any point, I'm always going to be here for you.
Well, that kind of leads to your business, because that's a different area of this. As you have obviously 2 locations now, hopefully a third at some point soon.
Coming
Soon at the end of the year. Business ownership is really hard. I mean, God help us all. It's so hard to be part of any sort of a leadership team, especially today for me here in Aesthetic Record. But anyway, that is hard to do. And I think you've gone through the nursing school program. You've done all the medical part of it. Like, you got that aced. But the business part is challenging. So how do you prepare for that? Where do you go to learn how to be great at business? You mentioned attorneys there, even compliance. Like, that's a whole long list of things to know how to do. Where did you get that knowledge?
That is what has cost me probably the most amount of financial loss, is doing things the wrong way and learning the wrong way, then spending the funds to do it the right way. So now I have 3 attorneys that go through everything I do to vet a possible family member, team member. I try not to use the word employee. I love team member, because we're all team. And I tell everybody, we move as one, we succeed as one, and we're only as best as our new hire. So we vet them really well to make sure that they're part of the team and that they fit in. They have multiple interviews. It starts with a phone interview, then it's in person with my operations manager. Then they'll meet some of the team. Then I'll come in and meet them, and then sometimes I'll even have them come in and just watch in the office for a little bit and kind of see what questions they ask, if they're asking good critical questions and they feel like they're part of it. If they're just standoffish and they're on the side, I don't, those aren't usually the people that I'm probably going to bring on board. And also through multiple trainings that are near me, if they don't have a home and they're an RN and stuff, I always follow up with them. It's the ones that are calling me and asking me lots of questions and stuff and don't have a home. Those are really good candidates a lot of the times.
I think trainings are a great place to get candidates. I mean, that's been a long-standing thing, is if you have a great training program, you get all the people who come in to see you, whoever stands out, hire them. But we have people who interview here that are very, very smart and very bright, but we would eat them alive. Like, we know instantly that we would literally eat them alive. Like, they would never survive here because we are a very fast culture. We're very direct. We don't sugar, I'll just say that we're frank in our dealings here at Aesthetic Record. And so it's like, you're brilliant and you're great at your craft, but we will literally like decimate you with all of our crazy attitudes. I think in a med spa, that is so important because the personalities are so strong, and patients are so strong with their personalities. They've got to be a certain way to fit into your puzzle. There is a part of it, it's a personality fit that I think we undervalue that. And I think it is so important as you pick a teammate.
It is, and there's three things that several things that I just don't tolerate in either one of my locations. Is bad talking to another team member. If you have an issue with somebody else on the team, please by all means deal with it, because if it comes to me, then that's a problem. It should not come to me. By the time it comes to me, something's going to happen, and that's usually not the case. But and then I don't allow any gossiping or negative talking, even in my banding location, because everyone knows everybody. So when you walk into a Beyond the Needle, I want the energy up, flowing, not negative. So no negative talk, and then no politics. I just don't allow politics to be discussed because it took a heated discussion for me to learn that lesson. So if politics are talked in any location, the front desk or somebody goes up and just talks to them very calmly and says, "Hey, can we just not talk about that in office today?" Yeah,
we have people on both sides of the fence. Extreme on both.
Yeah.
We'd have an all-out war here instead of.
So you don't allow them.
So we just can't. We have a fist fight in the hallway. I think what we've done here is we've made cultural like icons, like Kermit. I know it sounds funny, like Kermit the Frog. We have a Kermit who's dressed in all the different. I mean, we do memes back and forth constantly. We have our core values really important to us. We have like rock star. Everything has an AR in it, so you like rock star. The AR comes up. We've made sort of our culture our politics or our religion. That sounds kind of crazy, but I feel like we talk about that, and then it's fun, and it's fun ways to talk about the culture and about what we do here. We don't need to go into the other areas, if that makes any sense.
I love that.
So I think make your culture your religion.
That's your own religion right there. I love that, actually.
It's intentional for sure, because I think I have a lot of younger teammates who are under 30. I'm like the grandmother around here, as you can probably tell from my toxins worn off.
You look great, by the way.
Shawn, please.
No, you do. You look
He's just
amazing.
being nice, guys. No. But everyone here is really young, and so I think that they're trying to figure out how to be professionals also. And I think in the medical spas, it's probably very similar. If you hire a young nurse fresh out of school, she doesn't know how to be an employee yet. She doesn't know how to be a worker yet. And you've got to teach them how to be a professional in the environment where there's rules, regulations, there's high stakes, there's patients, there's HIPAA. There's so much to learn when you're 22 to 25. That it's a lot to figure out all of that, and also be happy and be well kept and have your clothes look great and be on time and make sure your boyfriend drama stays at home. And we ask so much of people when they come to work for us when they're younger that we have to really give them grace, and we focus on that here a lot. Like, just gotta give them some grace. Like, they just don't know yet. Like, they don't know how to do it yet. We focus on executive presidents. We have like an emerging leader program because they can't take it all in at once. They can't learn all of it in day one. And if you think they can, it's the wrong expectation for people who are in their early 20s.
Yeah, and I also had to take a step back and realize, seeing some stuff in team members, is that a training opportunity? Mm-hmm. That was an opportunity for myself and my growth also, because a lot of the times it was a training opportunity for me to have them grow and be a better provider.
I think too, learning to delegate. Like, I hate doing onboarding here. I'd rather put a needle in my eye. Like, I love new hires, and I love for them to be onboarded, and I love to come in and flash in, say hi, do some things, work some magic, and come out. But to walk you through like the basics of how to do your job, I would rather literally walk out on the highway, like, and just in front of cars. But I have people who are awesome at it because I know I don't want to do it. But you hire people who are really great at that thing and let them go do it. Like, they are awesome at that, and we have great people who do great training. But it doesn't have to be me. I think probably for you it's similar. If you don't delegate stuff that you don't like to do, you will not love your job. You'll come away from it every day just so burned out and so frazzled that you have to give away, like, fire yourself as much as you can. And I do have a struggle with that sometimes, but I'm working on that.
We all
Like,
do, I think.
fire myself from things I don't love, because if I don't love it, to do it as a chore, then I won't do it either as well as I should, or I'll put it off to the last minute, and then it's like chaos, and it's even worse at that point.
I agree. And I tell my team members, so something I implemented in the offices recently is, like you said, I can't do it all. So I also can't train the new team members on everything and be everywhere. I mean, I'm out of office quite a bit right now, but so I put somebody in charge. Like, I have my talk specialist, I have my skin specialist, I have my weight loss specialist. Everybody has their specialty. So when it's time to learn lasers, they're going to be with this individual. When it's time to learn talks, they're going to be with this other provider. So that's helped out tremendously.
I'm at in a patient room too. That's great to say, gosh, this is a really complex case. Let me go get my specialist, Jane. She's our number one when it comes to toxin.
Yeah.
I think it probably feels really great for the patient to be like, oh, they're going to go find a specialist. Like, it's like when you get your car dealership, you get the manager to come in.
The finance manager.
Go get my finance manager, get you a better deal. But I do think there's comfort in that. If you're a patient who's, the person's like, oh gosh, looking at you kind of him and hawing. Oh, I've got a person whose only focus here, their main focus is weight loss, and you're an interesting case. I'm going to go get them, bring them in. They'd love to see this. I think there's part of it too that it's a safety net for your team. They don't have to know it all on day one. They can find a person to help kind of bring them up as they go, because you can't teach every case before you start. Some things you just got to
100%.
learn as you go.
Yep.
And year 3 is different than year 1. I mean,
Yep.
it has to be,
And it's okay to ask for help.
for sure.
I mean, and I don't expect anybody, like you said earlier, to come in. I work 7 days a week. I can't tell you last time I probably had a day off, truly. I work every single day, and I love what I do, and I'm blessed to do what I do. So if I'm walking into that space, to our space, and have a smile on my face, and I forget everything going on at home, I expect the same from everybody. Yes, it's okay to talk about your personal issues in the break room and stuff like that. But when we are with a patient, that's their time, and that's give the patient a hug. And sadly, we're their therapist half the time too. I went from bartending before, all through nursing school. I bartended, and I was a therapist there. So I feel like it's carried over now into aesthetics.
It's the same job. I managed a bar in college.
Oh.
I was like the head waitress. So I managed the bar, and I think it's not that different of a job, to be honest. It's just not. They're dumb money
It's
out.
very
Yeah, same
similar.
kind of thing. But I do think therapy is a part of it. That's where I think people who come into this and then they end up finding out that and they hate it because they wanted to be a great clinician and like almost like ICU. They ain't talking, right? They're late. I go in, I do my thing, I go out. And then it's like, no, not here, honey. You got to sit here and listen to them cry and they're sad and life-changing events. And if you're not here for that, you can't really be here because that is a core part of the aesthetics industry. It just is part of the job.
It is. And I've learned, again, through trial and error, the first thing I have a new patient do is if I have a brand new patient, I hand them the mirror and I say, I need you to point out 3 things that you love, look, see, or feel about yourself. If you cannot name 3 things that you're even a good human, you're a great mother, like you love your eyes, that's a red flag to me. And usually I back up on my assessment and we go a little bit deeper. And most of the time that patient's not getting injected that day.
I think that's good. I think body dysmorphia is real. And
It's-
that patient leaves your practice and they're never pleased.
You set yourself up for failure.
Yeah, they're a red flag forever. Disputes, just pandemonium, I think, and they keep coming back and they want more, and the wrinkle never went away. It's like, I don't even see the wrinkle, and I have a magnifying. I'm like, I don't know what wrinkle you're talking about, but it's just like you can't please them. And I think if they've gone to 8 places now, they're here with you. You're number 9. Like you got to let them go. Bless and release.
Yep.
Tell somebody else that you want that $700 for your lip filler. You take them.
It's not worth the trouble.
It's just not.
No, the risk is not worth the reward.
I agree. Well, think about your practices and where the industry is going, because right now the industry is in chaos. It's a fast-moving bullet train right now, which I love it because I love chaos. I mean, I'm a wartime CEO. I'm not a peacetime CEO. So I like a little bit of chaos in the world, but it's changing rapidly. We know it is. California, I'm sure, you guys always change before the rest of us do. Texas and California kind of, we lead
Yes.
the chaos realm. But what are you seeing in your world? I think the weight loss, regenerative medicine, peptides, it's all culminating into this big movement. But where are you taking beyond the needle? Is it going beyond the needle into some other areas of practice?
I do, yes. I am the type also that I've learned to scale slowly. I've also learned not to jump on the train until there's evidence-based research to support a new product. If you bring on a new product and you make these promises to these patients and it doesn't work and they're out of that money, you've lost that patient. So I love my patients' trust. I've worked very hard for the past 7, 8, whatever years it's been to gain their trust. So I want to make sure whatever I'm bringing on, I'm very, very knowledgeable on. It took me 2 years to bring on weight loss. I read everything. I learned about everything about it. But I think regenerative medicine is also obviously where it's going, which I love. I mean, people are starting to age, I won't say backwards, but I mean,
less severely than we were before.
yeah, I mean, I'm 70, so like,
Same.
I just turned 50, but I mean, we're aging very, people are aging much. That was going to be the name of my practice originally, was aging gracefully, aging aesthetics. I just think there's a way to do it without having to, yes, I love a facelift and stuff at the appropriate time. I think there's people now that are having 2 or 3 by the time they're 40 and 50, which is the more they have, the worse they look sometimes. But yes, to answer your question, I mean, we have some new stuff coming up and coming, but I don't bring it on until I'm absolutely ready and I feel comfortable and confident with what I'm going to provide to my patients.
And I think the studies are still out, like exosomes. We don't know what's good, what's bad. Even peptides, is it research-based? Is it clinically proven? Have they done all the testing? Like, no one really knows right now. And I think until we know more, I'm much like you in that sense. Until I know more, I'm not one who just jumps on the wagon. I've been around this industry long enough to know, I'm sure you have as well, that there's some cowboys out there who just do some cowboy kind of things. So it is okay to wait. And I think there's people who really know it well. We had Lexi Yu, I did a podcast with her, I think yesterday, day before. She's been doing this peptide thing. That's her whole career. I mean, that's her entire life has been peptides and health, regenerative medicine. She's like, listen, this is what Stephen saw. This is what we do. We know.
Yeah.
And we can tell you, a lot of it right now is just trash. Like, don't do it. So, I mean, hearing them talk about it, it reiterates to you that you got to wait a second. But I think there is a big movement. I think weight loss is a big deal. But all of that to say, it requires different practitioners in the practice now who have different skill sets, who have different focuses. It's going to be a big thing for business owners. If we look at 2020, I don't know, even 8 to 29, what does it look like then? Like, do we know what a practice looks like then? Is it going to be this big, like, wellness center that's integrated, or what do we do?
I think that's honestly, like, that's where we're headed, I think. That's my guess. But I hope we take our time. But, I mean, even if you look back from, I think there was a huge shift in 2020 through COVID. When we came out the backside of COVID, aesthetics changed pretty drastically. And then it was a certain company that hired a anatomist who I feel very lucky to have taken his place in a certain role. But they literally started putting anatomy at the forefront of neurotoxins, which before we all injected the same exact way. You injected here, and above the line of convergence. We all walked around with medial brow ptosis. We thought we looked beautiful. Now we know anatomy quite a bit more, and that's what drives me. That's what makes me excited for the future.
Yeah, I love the mechanics of all of it. I get really nerdy. Like, I think it's just a sexy, nerdy school thing. All the mechanics of the face, like how you can do one thing in one area, and it's the same idea in the other area, but it's a different indication. But if you know one, you can, like, it's like a transient property, right? You can make it work somewhere else. I think that's what people miss. It's like it is an art. I don't disagree with that, but it's also science. Like, it's physics, it's science, it's geometric intricacies of the face. Like, some of it's just, you can't get away from the fact that it's just a scientific thing. It's a grid in a sense. So I think there's a part of it that artistry is great, but you got to be a scientist too.
100%. And I've been so blessed. Amber Pappas is the one that approached me to give me my first opportunity when I personally wasn't sure if I was ready. Tiphany, I was like, I don't know. Like, I still consider myself newer. I'm not 10 years in. I'm close, but people that have been doing it 20 years I love those that are leading the industry that are still learning. Mm-hmm. And we're constantly learning. It's very similar to electronics. You have to have that new iPhone every year. So it's the same thing with aesthetics. You need to learn. So I was blessed with this opportunity to have probably over 100 cadavers in my hands at this point, that I have been able to see the different anatomy on different cultures and different ages. And it's really made me a better provider, a better person, a better educator, and a better business owner.
Well, last thing is going to wrap up here. I think that you've been on the Evolus wagon, haven't you?
I wasn't sure if we're allowed to use it.
Yeah, you can. Yeah. They have a new filler coming out, or they just came out, which I think has been very popular. That's disruptive for the industry, right? We haven't had a new filler since really
decade.
Revanesse came out, and then RHA, but I think that those were also kind of known. RHA was known overseas, and it came here, but I think the Evolus model has been very different. Their whole anti-filler, which I think is very cool, by the way. I think it is true. It's the anti-filler, but that's been a journey, I'm sure, for you working on that project, getting it to market. Now you're a trainer for them. How has that changed, even as you go toward the country? New filler it's kind of scary for people. It's like, they're used to being Allergan, MERS, and Galderma.
Yeah, and you'll never hear me speak negative about another person or a product in the industry. What's amazing is, yes, I've done the cadaver bus for 2 years. I'm the only person that's on their commercial and educational side of their business. But as far as the new injectable hyaluronic acid, they've avoided using the word filler because, again, that's the same reason people are doing it themselves and the same way people are overfilled. That's our hands of providers. So we are to blame for those things. So they took a corrective action and dropped the F word campaign.
I love that.
And it's the first filler that's out in a decade. And it's instead of using heat and bringing the pH up to 17, they used basically freezing cold technology. So it helps with post-inflammation, post-inflammatory nodules. What you see is what you get. I've used probably about 120 syringes so far. I had it in my hands quite a while, and literally what you see after when you're in your after photos is what you're going to end up with. There's very, very little swelling.
Well, I love the Drop the F Word campaign. They're such great marketers. Like, they are marketing geniuses at Evolus. They really are. And I love all of our products, by the way. I love our friends at Galderma, Evolus,
Everybody. Yeah,
MERS, everywhere.
Yep.
But I just think it's a cool thing to be in an industry that was not changing at all for decades. Nothing happened. I mean,
Yep.
nothing. And then, I don't know, 2019 or so hit, and everyone's got everything, which is great. I mean, I think the competition, it's driving down some prices in some ways, but also education is getting more ubiquitous. I think we're seeing people try new things, different things, find better products for certain areas. I think it will open up a lot of doors for us. I think we'll always be behind the 8 ball for training. We'll always have more things coming to market than we can train on. And so there'll always be a gap. That's where people like you have to, I think what you're doing is great, like standing in and saying, we've got to help people who don't know yet. And if we don't, it's going to affect all of us. But yeah, I want to have the bus. They came 2 years ago to Ann, and they can't come back this year. We called, we're like, can we please have the bus? And they're touring somewhere, I think Colorado that day. They can't come. But we love that Evolus bus around here. We love it.
It's a pretty cool thing, and there may be some more stuff coming.
Well,
So.
bring it all on.
Yeah.
We want the bus here. But as we kind of wrap up, we're going to jump off. It's been an hour. It's shocking. I just,
It
like I
goes by
said,
so fast.
I think you're just such a cool human, just a cool human in general. I think from your, working with Nuna, and met you, I don't know how many years ago that was, and then seeing you build your own practice, and then knowing your background, your history, and what you're doing for other injectors, I think it's just so novel and really important to our industry. I think people should take a note and go do it as well to help other people reach down and bring them up to your table with you. But that's, again, a different TED Talk.
Thank you.
So give us an idea of where to find you next. Are you on the bus anywhere soon? We can come find you and watch you train and talk?
I am. I'm in Salt Lake City. I have. I just did 2 trainings in Orange County and Temecula last week. I have Salt Lake City coming up. Ohio, I think. I have 11 more bus trips the next 3 months, I think.
Cool.
And then I think I have 5 more training dates in the next 6 weeks. So.
Good Lord.
But it's like I said, it's literally what fills my cup. I don't like being out of office, and obviously I don't do it for money because I can potentially make a lot more money in office, but it's like I said, it makes me happy.
Yeah, and everyone knows your name now. You're East Coast to coast, baby. You're everywhere.
I don't know about that, but I'm trying. It makes me happy. So.
Well, I think it's a big need, and I love the idea that education at an affordable rate, and also talking about what's impacted you negatively. To say don't do what I've done, I think that is such a big. People don't think about the value of that. To know what not to do is equally as important as knowing what to do, especially when it comes to business and all the money that you spend on attorneys and things. Man, I could write a book about that. All the things that I've effed up and found out. I've effed around and found out a few things here and there. But you don't know until you go do it. And if someone else can say, hey, I took the licks for you, I took the beating for you, that's important. That's very helpful.
That's what I want. I would never want someone to experience the unnecessary financial burden that I went through, not knowing. And I've figured out that learning curve. Let me help you. Yeah. And I think those are the main calls and texts that I get. And again, that brings me joy.
Well, we'll look forward to the 3rd location coming soon and all those 97 bus trips you'll take in the next 2 years. But tell us how to find you on Instagram before we roll off here.
So I have 2 different accounts. It's Shawn Thursby-Palmer and also Beyond the Needle Med Spa.
And I'll put that in the notes as well. But go find Shawn's schedule. Get on his schedule. Go watch him on the bus. But also maybe Aesthetic Next. We're trying to get you on the stage for Aesthetic Next too. But I mean, I see you at things all the time, so you're always out and about. But I just think go follow his med spa. Go see what he's doing because it's going to be some cool stuff. I'm sure. I have no doubt. But
thank you so much for having me, Tiffany. You're just such a wonderful human being, and everyone here at the office. Phenomenal people. So
we've been excited about your arrival. But congratulations on your success. I mean, I'm to say I'm proud of you sounds kind of funny, but I'm super proud of you and all the things that you've done. So we'll see all of you guys next week for another episode of For the Record. Probably not as an emotional one as this one, but we'll see you guys next time. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thanks for listening to another episode of For the Record. This podcast is not intended to provide legal or medical advice. It's for entertainment, education, and information purposes only. For more information on this week's guest or to get started with Aesthetic Record, email us at info@aestheticrecord.com. Be sure to tune in next week for more fresh perspectives on disrupting the status quo and surviving in the aesthetics industry.